Your recklessness will cost you dearly.
Strinova is a brilliant new hero shooter with a refreshing and unique take on the genre. However, the game isn't without its flaws, so let's get into the details.
Start healing as it's working. Inflicted significant damage on the target.
Only one enemy remains.
Strinova isn't just your ordinary hero shooter. In fact, it really does stand out with the game's unique mechanics, which allow you to become stringified. This means that you can switch from a 3D character model to a 2D paper cutout-like perspective. This was extremely fun to use as it's an actual mechanic that's useful for many different things instead of just existing for the sake of the game's aesthetic. Can't double jump high enough to get to a high up area? Well, just go into stringified mode, walk up a wall and you can get straight there. You can also use stringified mode to narrow yourself down, so if you want to squeeze between a tight little gap, go from one area to another, it's easy to do this because you can go into stringified mode, which makes you really thin, and you can squeeze between tight gaps behind cargo containers, and there's many different things within each and every map that you can squeeze between using stringified mode as you're walking. This is also useful for dodging bullets and also taking less damage from enemies' gunfire. You know, if you're a shotgun user, you go into stringified mode, dodge all those bullets, wait until they reload, then you shotgun them. There's many different things you can use stringified mode for as well, like gliding. This is good for picking up speed, you know, giving yourself a faster pace of movement. You can also get to faraway places using the glide mechanic, and there's many other things you can do using the glide mechanic. You can also use stringified mode to peek around corners, so if you want to ambush someone, or if you want to see where the enemy is without them seeing you, you can do that, which is honestly really great in terms of gameplay, and you can kind of strategize with this game. There's so many things you can do with this stringified mechanic, and I'm glad it exists because it's very unique and extremely fun to play around with. Another cool way to use the stringified mechanic is in the escort game mode, which is your typical escort the payload game mode. You know, you have it in Overwatch and many other shooters. You can actually use the stringified mode on the payload itself to move it while also confusing the enemies, and this also makes it harder for enemies to shoot at you because you're stuck to the payload and you can move across it. I might show a bit of this on screen. It's honestly quite interesting that they've integrated actual mechanics into different game modes. There are multiple game modes and there's even more on the way. So I'm guessing one day we'll have even more maps and even more game modes that, you know, use the stringified mechanic in unique and interesting ways. You may have also noticed already from the background gameplay that this game is also a mix between a third person and a first person shooter. Normal movement and hip firing uses the third person camera, whereas using your scope or aiming down sights puts you into a first person shooting mode. This is great for players as it gives you more of an option on how you want to play the game. Some people are turned off by a third person shooter, and this completely negates that issue. Same with people that don't like first person shooters, they kind of give you the option here, and it's kind of a mix between the two, so you can't really complain too much about it. I'm sure many people aren't a fan of this as well, but in my opinion this is also great for players that are new to shooters or are using keyboard and mouse for the first time just like me. You know, I have used keyboard and mouse on other games before, but this is my first shooter using a keyboard and mouse, and I found it very easy to adjust to the controls using the shooting mode. You know, I kind of trained myself to use hip firing mode first, aiming down sights, and then aiming in using my scope, because aiming down sights and aiming using your scope are two different features in this game, which is great because you can have your short range hip firing, you can have your long range which would be your scope, and your mid to long range, which would be to just aim down sights. Honestly, a brilliant way of doing this, and I think it's very new player friendly and very easy to pick up but hard to master. Moving on to the different game modes. First we have challenge mode, which consists of your casual game modes. This would be Team Arena, which is 2 teams, 7 versus 7. Team Deathmatch, which is 5 teams of 3, first to get to 50 kills. Same with Team Arena, first team to get to 50 kills. Escort the Payload, where if you're on the attack side, you have to escort the payload to the goal. If you're on the defense side, stop the payload from reaching the goal. Demolition, which is a 5 versus 5, where if you're on the attack side, you have to make sure the bomb detonates, you have to plant it, guard the bomb. If you're on the defense side, make sure they don't plant the bomb and also try to kill their team. You've also got Ranked, which is only Demolition for now, but there are other game modes that will be coming out in the future, so I don't know when that will be. Apparently next year we'll have some new game modes, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they will do with Ranked mode, and if they will add anything too casual, unless what they will do maybe is they will turn the other 3 game modes into a Ranked mode as well, but I'm not sure they're going to do that. I do believe Ranked will exclusively be Demolition for now until they make a new game mode, I'm not too sure. So far I've been really enjoying the Demolition mode, specifically the Ranked version of this, because it's super fun working with your team to plant the bomb or defend points to make sure the bomb doesn't get planted. Though I did notice a lot of people weren't really sticking with their team, specifically in Ranked mode, which often led to us dying, losing a few rounds, or losing our rank placing, which is a bit annoying. You know, it's kind of a whole part of a team game is to work with your team. I wish there was a way they would, you know, filter your teammates, because I did notice in Ranked mode there was a massive flaw, and that was the matchmaking. It took a very long time to get into a match, and when you finally did, your team was not anywhere near the same rank as you, or the same skill level. I think in the future they need to balance the Ranked mode and make it accurate to your stats as well, so you can have balanced teams on both sides, which is kind of the whole point of Ranked. It's ranked for a reason. You're put in with players where, you know, you're meant to be in the same player base, and every player on your team is meant to be a very similar skill, or is meant to match up with the enemy team, so they don't get an unfair advantage. I did notice that a lot, where the matchmaking didn't really make any sense, so hopefully in the future they can work on this. And though overall every character in the game is balanced, we'll move on to the characters in more detail in a second, but I do want to mention in certain game modes you could exploit the abilities of certain characters to kind of break the game. This has kind of been fixed, and I guess people have found a workaround. If you play as Audrey, who's this like tank unit, she can place down a turret, and you can either use it as an auto turret or you can use it, you know, manually. If you use it manually in certain areas during the escort game mode, you can pretty much stop anyone from getting to the payload. And if you get to there's a certain place where I started playing it, I'll show a little replay on the screen right now. In this place you could, you know, put yourself behind cover, and if you upgraded yourself you could move along this track line, meaning the turret could move, you know, to take cover and that and stuff like that. But basically what you would do is you would put it in a specific spot so no one could shoot you through cover, but you could shoot them, and you could pretty much just pick off as many enemies as you wanted. This was super fun, I won't lie, but again, balancing is always a good thing, because, you know, you don't want this to be a thing in the future where the game is way too easy for certain units in the game. One thing that I will say, this isn't really a problem anymore. I think people have found a workaround to this by using grenades, interceptors and other things, rather than them actually patching this or changing Audrey's shield. It's still a way, there's still a way you can exploit it using this trick in certain spots around different parts of the map in the escort game mode, but it's not as much of an issue as it was before. Though again, Audrey's whole, you know, usage in this game is to be a defense unit. She's supposed to kind of guard certain spots, whether you're guarding a bomb site or, you know, other things. She's not really used as an attack unit as much. I don't really see many people on the attack side using her, unless you're escorting the payload and you're like on top of it. That's another way you can use Audrey. I think I got like 48 kills in this game I'm showing you right now just by using this, and I think it was because everyone was new to the game at the time, but I do every so often get into games with people that are new to the game, and it does feel a bit, mean when one of my team is using the same tactic because they can't beat it because they're not, equipped to, counter the shield on Audrey's turret or really understand how to stop it from happening, because a lot of these people, they were just walking into the bullets, which is kind of funny, I won't lie. Me personally, I would sneak around, go behind Audrey, and then, shoot her in the head, and then you're fine. But, it's still a problem where you can exploit characters' abilities to pretty much just make it completely unfair for the other team. So there is some balancing that could be done here. I could say this for other units in the game, so let's get into the characters and other things.
Ready for a fight.
If you're feeling tired, why don't you try my fragrance?
So far in Strinova, there's 17 characters to select from, which is fairly decent on release. There is more to come. I believe there's an 18th character coming within the next couple of weeks. These characters are split into 5 different roles, them being duelists, controllers, sentinels, supports, and vanguards. Though even within each of these roles, every character kind of stands out with unique abilities. They all have their unique guns. Obviously your secondary weapon you have to select from like a sword, pistol, whatever you want to use, and they have absolutely stunning designs. There's a lot to these characters, so I kind of want to have like a little breakdown of my favourites and just speak about some of the abilities that you can use in this game that are exclusive to these characters. Okay, so let's talk about my favourite units in the game currently. Starting with the attack units, keep in mind some characters could be used on the defense and attack side, but let's just start off with the basics. We're going to be speaking about Aika first, who is a shotgun duelist character who's extremely fun to play with, as her skill creates a ring of fire dealing damage to enemies within that ring, and if you're also in the ring yourself, you will deal more damage yourself to that enemy, especially if they're in the ring as well. I also found that she was very easy to pick up and play, but she was quite hard to master. Her damage wasn't anything crazy, but if you learn how to use it correctly, everything is made up for that, and she is extremely good. Sneaking up on the enemy and shooting them was extremely fun with this. It felt a bit broken in some places, but as I played more and people got better at the game, she's kind of a well-balanced unit, and she's good for close range users if you're not too much of a fan of aiming down sights. Then you can use Aika, sneak up on an enemy, shoot them. She's extremely fun to use and very simple to pick up. Next is Konami, a Vanguard sniper unit who is useful in many ways. For instance, she's great for tracking enemies and is a great choice for players that want to, hang back and support their team from a distance. Of course, she's a sniper, so you've kind of got to learn how to aim with her. Even if you're not good at the game though, you can use her sniping to track enemies and just help out your teammates. Obviously, her skill can be used to track enemies, and her ultimate, which is useless in most cases, can be used to pull enemies into it, which reduces their movement speed and accuracy. I'd say the only viable way to actually use this is in the demolition game mode. If you want to defend a bomb site, if you place the bomb down, if you throw it next to the bomb, like a little bit further away, then it's harder for the enemies to disarm the bomb. That's a good way of using her ultimate. I don't really see the point in her ultimate other than for that usage. She's a great unit. I highly enjoyed playing as her. I've only recently started playing as her because I'm not too much of a fan of sniper units half the time, especially in games where you're very much in close range quite a bit. So I only usually pick Konami if it's on a specific map where there's a lot of places I could shoot at people from a long range. For the sake of this video's length, I'll be moving on to the defense units. We're going to speak about 2 different characters as we did with the attack side. First, we're going to be starting off with Flavia. She's the duelist unit who uses an SMG. She may be my favourite character in the game to play as because she's extremely fun to use and has some very fun mechanics. She can use her skill to turn into a butterfly, which can confuse enemies and negate any damage, and her ultimate makes this ring of butterflies where if you get hit by gunshots you turn into a butterfly, meaning you can dodge their bullets completely and get behind them. Your gunfire is rapid, your damage is increased. She's just extremely fun to play as, very unique, very different, and I honestly just enjoyed playing as her. She has a high amount of damage, and she is quite, uncommon for people to use. I've noticed not many people use her, mainly because I feel like a lot of people don't really know how to use her. But in my opinion, she might be one of the best characters to use on the defense side, mainly just because she's good at dodging bullets. And if you're not good at dodging bullets, you can kind of make up for that. Luckily, I'm good at dodging bullets either way using the stringified mode. But the point is, she's a very good unit that you can use for many things. Whether you want it to be helping out your teammates by getting behind, she's kind of like a stealth unit. That's all I could say. We're going to move on to the next character. I'm not too sure who I'm going to speak about in this section, so you'll find out, I guess. Another fun unit is Michelle, a sentinel character who can deploy 2 gadgets that are called caps somethings, I can't remember, something to do with paws or caps. They shoot lasers at enemies and they reveal their locations when they get hit using these lasers. So basically you place 2 of these down at any location. If an enemy gets hit by them, it reveals their location and does damage. And sometimes if they shoot it, if you upgraded your character in a certain way, it would also give you shield if you're within range. I think it's within 45 meters of them. She can also reveal enemies through walls if they directly shoot at you. So say they're behind you, they shoot at you, it will reveal them through the walls. That way you can kind of pinpoint their location. Because in most games when you get shot from behind, you'll be looking all over the place because you have no idea most of the time. And her ultimate deploys a drone that is a combination between her skill and an auto turret that does a massive amount of damage. I found this really useful when people were about to plant the bomb. I would throw it down and then they wouldn't be able to plant the bomb whatsoever because it does a crap ton of damage this drone does. But it's quite weak in terms of the shield. It does get destroyed quite easily if there's multiple players. If there's like 1 or 2 players left on the enemy team, they're probably not going to be able to deal with it without, at least having their shield depleted. So she is a fun unit. There are other units in the game I could speak about. There's ones that teleport. There is a single unit that also, when she gets knocked down, she can revive herself, which was a very fun ability to play with. I haven't got that character yet, but I did get to test her out for free during that free trial event where you could play as any character you wanted without needing to use your currency, which was great. Very fun. There's so many units in this game and they all have their own unique abilities that make them stand out, and that's great for a game like this. So let's move on to the voice acting and character design. The English voice acting for Strinova is surprisingly good, though some characters do sound better than others and some voices don't match their character. Kanami though is my favourite character in the English dub. As you can tell, her VA is very much like born to voice idol characters. She plays many other characters from animes and games that I've played before. She voices similar characters basically. She also voices whatever her name is from Danmachi, the goddess. She voices a crap ton of characters, and it's nice to hear a familiar voice in this game. A lot of the voice actors in this game I know from playing previous games, different games, or watching shows. Basically, if you've watched a lot of English dubbed stuff, you can probably, listen to some of these voice actors and be like, oh, I've heard them before. The Chinese voice acting is great, and so is the Japanese. I don't know if there's a Japanese actually or a Korean, but either way, the voice acting is great all around. I haven't fully tested out the other language options, but from what I've heard, they're really good and they all suit the characters perfectly. Of course, some of the voices have been fixed now. Like I think Bai Mao had a really bad English voice actor. It wasn't a bad voice actor in general, just not for his character. It did not fit him whatsoever. He's meant to be this like pretty boy, kind of cool guy, but they made him this like nerdy little geeky guy kind of with his voice, and they changed that recently, which is great. All around, the voice acting is great. So let's move on to the art style. As you know, it's an anime shooter, which is very unique. There's not many games that are shooters whilst also being anime. There are games that are inspired by anime, like Overwatch and other things, but there's not many shooters that are specifically within the anime genre for styles, you know. And I really found this game quite pretty in places, though some of the maps did seem to be very similar to maps from Counter-Strike and other shooters, but I don't really mind too much because a lot of shooters rip each other off with their maps. Again, as long as the maps have unique mechanics and unique things to do in them, and very different, if you can differentiate between the games, that's completely fine. That's enjoyable, and I love that. Obviously the character designs are great, that comes under the art style as well. I like the outfits, there's a crap ton of outfits to choose from. Of course, this game is gacha, so a lot of these outfits do come from the gacha. You can get some of these outfits from the battle pass, you can get them for free just by leveling up for some outfits, and there's many other ways to obtain outfits and weapon skins. Overall, I would say the art style, the voice acting, and everything else to do with that is great. So what about the music? Well, the music is pretty good as well, honestly. It's nothing crazy, but it's nice hearing music that's not too repetitive in a shooter when you're in your selection phase, when you're, about to win. There's a nice, amount of epic music, I guess. It's a bit weird saying that, but when you're about to finish off a ranked match and this music starts playing, it really makes it feel like it's like actually quite tough. It makes you feel like you're on a tournament, even though you're not, it's just ranked mode. But the music is fun and I really enjoy it. Honestly, overall the game is great. So let's get into the gacha mechanics and other features. So how does the gacha hold up? Well, honestly, there's not too much to say here. There's a bunch of different outfits you can obtain, and honestly the gacha does feel rewarding, though you don't really pull too much if you're free to play because it's hard to gather enough pulls to do a temple. But from what I've done so far, I've got a really nice amount of outfits. I haven't got a mythic outfit yet. I believe it's called mythic. It's like you've got legendary and then you've got a tier above it. I haven't gotten any of those yet. I've got a bunch of legendary outfits, a bunch of weapon skins, and honestly I've been using quite a few of the skins I've gotten because they're all really highly detailed and well designed. Honestly, I don't really know too much about the gacha other than it's guaranteed, you're guaranteed a mythical skin or whatever it is within 80 pulls, I believe it is, or your 80th pull you will get it. Typical gacha stuff. Other than that, there's also a visual novel type game mode, if you really want to call it that. Basically what you do is you have to rank up your character's intimacy rank. Okay, there we go, got it out eventually. But if you level up their intimacy rank, I think Celestia is the only character with this mechanic at the minute on the English version of the game. But basically you level them up, you get to a certain level, you can go into this little visual novel type game mode and learn more stuff about these characters. There's no voice acting for this visual novel mode just yet. I don't know if that's a thing going to be a thing in the future, or if that's just going to be how it is. I don't know. But it's nice adding these little details to characters so you can learn more about them. Obviously there's a story as well, so that kind of, it's kind of nice to see all of that come together with the story and the side stories with all the characters. There's also quests that you can do to rank up these characters, like with Celestia you have to revive 5 people, I believe, and that's what I've done so far. I haven't done any other quests because I haven't unlocked them there yet, but you can also give them gifts. There's loads of things you can do with this intimacy mechanic, and it's just a fun little add-on, especially in the future when every character has this mechanic. It'll be nice to kind of get all of these exclusive items and skins from them just from hanging out with them and playing as them and other things like that. Obviously, as I said, there's a story, but it's not really that large at the minute. You could probably finish it within 20 to 30 minutes, but I do believe this will expand in the future. Hopefully it will be like a full-on campaign, unlike Overwatch. I think we all know what happened there, but it'll be nice to see an expanding story in a shooter for once that is in this genre, because many shooters that are hero shooters or kind of similar, they won't have an overarching story in the game itself. They only have like a story within character trailers and version updates where you open the game and then like a cutscene plays. That's the only story you get in other games, things like Apex and stuff like that. Again, I haven't played those games in a while, so I don't know if that's still the case there, but you know, here at least there is a story that will probably expand over the next couple of weeks. Maybe we'll get one, like a story expansion every couple of updates, I have no idea. So let's get on to the final verdict, which obviously this video has been quite long already, so we won't talk too much about things in the final verdict.
All units, be advised. Target locked.
Overall, I really enjoyed playing Strinova. As someone who isn't a massive fan of hero shooters and the online shooter genre in general, I enjoyed this refreshing take on the genre and will continue to play this game in the future if it continues on this path. Hopefully we'll be seeing more updates to maps, characters, abilities and the story itself in the next few months, and with that I'll be giving Strinova an 8.5 out of 10. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on the game, and if you're going to be playing it, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. I appreciate any kind of support, and I'll see you in the next one, which will hopefully be shorter than this one, and hopefully I won't be sick throughout it. This has taken me a very long time to make this video, so I appreciate any kind of support, and I'll see you in the next one.